Democratic lawmakers are now on board demanding answers after Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said the administration will not disclose which companies received more than $500 billion worth of loans through the Paycheck Protection Program, despite Secretary Mnuchin's pledge to be transparent from the start.
Let me just emphasize, we have full transparency on anything we do. We will be reporting to the public.
I think when Secretary Mnuchin talked about transparency, he talked about the transparency of the process of making the evaluation for the loan and then the distribution. And so far as naming each and every company, I don't think that promise was ever made, and I don't think it's necessary.
That is categorically false on the part of Larry Kudlow. It absolutely was made, and I'm going to give you precedent. Every SBA program in history, the loans are public. Why is this a big deal? Because this is hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars, and they went to help small businesses that were shut down during the pandemic. But now we may never know exactly where that money went or how the program worked. Joining me now to discuss, someone who should be in a position to know, Bharat Ramamurthy. He is one of the members of the Congressional Oversight Commission specifically set up by the CARES Act, overseeing $500 billion of CARES Act money. Bharat, you don't have any jurisdiction over the PPP program. When this thing was designed, Congress could have said, and let's make sure the Congressional Oversight Committee looks at all of this. But right now, there is no oversight committee, is there?
That's correct. The Oversight Commission that I'm on does not have oversight authority over this money. And to go back to what you said earlier, you're right. This is an outrageous lack of transparency. This is information that has always been disclosed as part of SBA programs. On the form that PPP borrowers filled out to ask for money, it said very clearly that their name and the loan amount would be disclosed. In early April, the administration said that they would disclose this money. And so this reversal is really concerning because it indicates that perhaps something happened in the dispersal of that money that caused the administration to want to keep this information hidden.
But isn't it more than that? Because 2 weeks ago, Secretary Mnuchin said any loan under $2 million, the Treasury Department doesn't have the bandwidth to pursue in the event that there's fraud. A, that makes no sense. But B, the other option would be fine. Then when all these loans become public, we can pursue them. Now we can't.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Remember, the design of this program was to get money out the door as quickly as possible to as broad a set of companies as possible. And as a result, they designed the program with very few hoops to jump through at the front end. The flip side of that is that on the back end, you need total transparency and extremely robust oversight to make sure that the money is going to the folks that it was intended to go to. Remember, there are no conflict of interest rules on this money, unlike the money that goes through the Treasury and the Fed programs, which means that the Trump organization and its companies could have accessed funds through this program. Members of Congress and their families could access funds through this program. That's just one of the reasons why we need total transparency with this money.
And Bharat, it's not just the president. Members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, there are cases where they have spouses who took the money, some cases took over $2 million when their spouses ran publicly traded companies. Why is it that we're not seeing more than now Democrats in Congress want the banks to disclose it? Why aren't members of Congress from the start demanding this information's public? I have been calling them for weeks, and I'm like Don Quixote shouting at windmills.
Yeah, look, I think that there should be bipartisan interest in making sure that this information becomes public. I'm glad to see that there is now bipartisan support for this information becoming public. Look, it doesn't require an act of Congress. The administration could reverse course again this morning and make this information public. But short of that, Congress has to act in this situation. And by the way, I think that they should be pushing for disclosure of every single loan, no matter how big it is. I think this idea that only loans above $2 million should be disclosed, that's not good enough. If you're getting $1.9 million from the government, you should be able to disclose that information.
But is it too late for Congress to do anything? Congress had leverage before they signed the first CARES Act. At this point, do they just have to ask the Treasury, the administration, to do something different or beg banks to take action?
No, they can pass a bill, and they should. And there's been action on the House floor, at least, to try and pass a bill that would require the administration to disclose this information. I think, again, The easiest way for this to happen is for members of Congress and for the public to put pressure on this administration to go back to their original stance and release this information. But short of that, Congress can act very quickly, and they should, to make sure this information becomes public, because the public has the right to know what is happening to $500 billion of its money. Remember, that's more money than the government spends on Medicaid. That is orders of magnitude more than the government spends on housing or education every year. This is a huge sum of money, and the fact that the public doesn't know where it went is just untenable.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.